I am Sara White, a retired director of pharmacy. To provide a targeted approach, I have selected some excerpts from 4 individual conversations with health system pharmacy's most influential leaders. This video deals with the value of mentors and how to maximize the mentoring relationship. You will find comments on mentoring in most of the conversations. I hope you enjoy and learn from these folks' experiences. The first one comes from Bruce Scott, who graduated from pharmacy school in 1979 and is having a unique career. He practiced as a clinical pharmacist before completing an MS residency, then worked as an assistant director, director, and vice president in health systems before moving into the for-profit corporate world. Bruce has been a chief operating officer and CEO of several companies. His leadership experiences are described in his full conversation, and I've included an excerpt from it here.
One of my mentors at that time was Pam Pletz at the University of Wisconsin. And Pam, I am forever grateful to her for the time that she took to help me figure out my career path. And she gave her personal time to sit down and just talk through issues, as well as motivated me and giving me opportunities within a practice. But she led me to understand a bit about myself, and that I was looking for a role in which I could provide leadership. And that led me to the master's program and the residency. She also helped me understand that the concept that I had in my head that, the practice of pharmacy was the University of Wisconsin, because that's all I'd ever seen. She helped me understand that there's a larger world of practice, and it might be beneficial for me to see practice in a different organization, which eventually led me to the University of Kansas.
So why don't we go ahead and talk more about mentors and mentorship?
Okay. I would, and I have on many occasions, shared with young leaders that if there's one thing I'd recommend for them and their career, is to have at least one, probably more mentors, because that has been so important in my life. I mentioned Pam, and Sarah, I think you know that you are one of the individuals in my life that have helped me through my entire career, and I'm very appreciative of that and want to take any opportunity I can to say thanks. Another mentor, David Zilz, has just always been there, and he's one of those people also that I pick up the phone at any time, even today, to call to say, what do you think of this? And why that's so important to me is that there are very few people in your life, when you get to the executive leadership level, that will tell you the truth and be very honest in terms of the positives that they see, as well as those opportunities that you should do something different or think of a different option. And to have that in your life is so important to your continued growth and development, because we all have those blind spots, and it's our mentors that help shine those spotlights on those areas that we need to give more thought to, or improve, or maybe do something different. So I found that to be one of the keys to any success I've had, is the mentors that I've had in my life that have been able to provide me direction.
So what advice do you have for the audience on how to find a good mentor?
I would say oftentimes they're right around us. And as I've talked with our younger colleagues, I've heard things like, well, I don't want to search a person because they're so busy. And what they miss is that oftentimes, as we have gotten to the later stages of our career, we're looking for ways to give back. And through that mentor relationship, it's just absolutely huge. So I encourage them, don't be scared by someone's busy calendar. Always also go to someone that you know will be honest with you, that are going to tell you the things that you might not want to hear. You really don't need someone that's going to tell you you're great. I mean, my mom does a great job of that. So in a mentor, you need someone that's going to give you a 360 degree of whom you are. So if you can find that, and often those are people that know you very well, those are the individuals that I would suggest people. And if you can't find it all in one person, there's nothing wrong with having 2 or 3.
So how do you maintain that relationship, or what's the value? How do you do that, I guess?
I think it's just, well, first of all, none of my mentors expect that I'm going to call every day. But for me, I like to talk with them, several times a year, and when opportunity presents itself at national pharmacy meetings, set a morning for breakfast or an evening for dinner or a lunch opportunity. And if you can find yourself doing that, a couple of times a year, you'll find that that will serve you well. And outside of that, it's just become the crisis moments. My company was sold, I'm thinking about this opportunity, what do you think about that? But that ongoing meeting opportunity is where I find a great opportunity for continued just catch up updates. And other than that, it's just call people when you need them.
Paul Pierpaoli, a 1960 graduate, has served as a director of pharmacy in several large academic centers and has always conducted residency programs. He is very dedicated to mentoring and precepting, has published on it, and shares his philosophy. In his conversation, you will find a discussion of the trade-offs he and his family made along his career journey. His Whitney lecture, An Iconoclastic Perspective on Progressive Pharmacy Practice, is worth reading. One of your past residents told me that when they were with you, there was a little desk right outside of your office that they worked at, and you included them in everything that you did. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. I've always maintained that it has to be a very inclusive relationship, that when residents are doing a rotation with you, they have to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and be with you as much as possible. Sometimes that's difficult to do because of circumstances in terms of reporting relationships to people in a hospital or in any organization. But I insisted that they be involved in everything, the good, perhaps maybe too much of the ugly, but there's also something to learn from the ugly as well. But any good mentor has to realize that they have to share as much as they possibly can. And that includes sometimes being able to bare your soul and say, look, I don't know the answer to this question, but let's try to find an answer together, and together we can find that answer. And that in itself becomes a learning experience. So that's perhaps, in a nutshell, what I have tried to focus on in terms of involving my residents. Another factor is I've always been a student of the school of taking people out of their comfort zone and putting them into new responsibilities where they run the risk of failure, perhaps, in a controlled way, but at the same time they develop confidence and self-knowledge, which is a very important important component of developing leadership skills.
Dave Zilz, a 1962 graduate, was the first resident at Wisconsin, going on to serve as assistant, director, and administrator for several departments, always reporting directly to the CEO. His approach to mentoring will stimulate your thinking. You will also find in his conversation a discussion of having a life plan and lessons learned. Why don't you expand a little bit on the mentoring and how you attempt to mentor people?
I try to think of the question they haven't asked. I try to frame things always, you should be thinking about this, or have you thought about this? Rather than trying to come up with an answer for them, I try to frame it in a way that they think through an answer, but be sure they've asked the right question to do it. And mentoring, it's got different definitions to different people. And one definition that I've used for a number of years, and I'm not sure it was right, it's a very interdependent relationship. You're always learning something from the people that you're working with as a mentoree. John Gans once said you should have and be one at all times, a mentor. So I kind of go through different phases. But to me, it's you worry about not is the person doing this exactly right, but are they in the right game? Are they at the right place? Is now the time to move? That's sort of the level that I like to think of my help to people, or asking the unasked question.
So what career advice do you have for young pharmacists today?
I think you got to focus on getting the job done that you're doing and requested to do now. But you've got to stay open for other possibilities. And the more you can take a broader view, putting things in context broader than just your specific task at any given time, will serve you better over the long term. And I think residency set that stage, but then sometimes we gravitate to a very specialized approach and we narrow our program. And others we say, this is the boundaries that I'm going to put on what I'm going to do. And I think just be flexible and cultivate that network. I mean, that's to me the bottom line, whether it's other residents now, whether it's people in the department they're in now. And every practitioner's got to expand their network continuously.
And how would they do that, expand their network?
Opportunities crop up every day. And so just, explore, is this one that I ought to maintain and cultivate? And from my experience, you never know where it's going to pop up. And if you look at the medical center enterprise, it could be a dean one day, it could be a chairman one day, it could be a specialty practice one day, it could be a specific nursing director. Just continually be aware of, is this a network that I should retain and or expand? And it'll come together. It's not a concise thing to me. It's a lot of chaos in terms of how you formalize your network. But if you stay open to it, and the other thing I would encourage people to network with each other. When you see an opportunity, say, I really don't know, but if you talk to so-and-so, maybe that will be helpful to you. So kind of cultivate expanding other people's networks, I think, is another way that can be helpful to people, young professionals.
Is it maybe just simply exchanging business cards? So you've got contact information.
Yep, could be now, email address. I mean, it can be, it's really hard to put boundaries on it or to develop, in my mind anyway, a very clear process. I think that the key thing is just to be very aware and open that networks is what makes things happen. And so however you can develop ones that fit you and them and comfortable, I think, it'll happen okay. The awareness is the key thing. Nothing gets done by you alone. And so you have to figure out how you fit with other people.
Finally, Harold Godwin, a 1964 graduate who has not only served as ASHP president, but recently as APHA president, offers his advice on using and being a mentor. His conversation outlines a joint career in teaching, health system pharmacy leadership, and the value of being involved in professional organizations. Talk a little bit more about the mentors or the people that have helped and influenced you. What did they do for you? And then we'll talk about how you now mentor folks.
Okay. That's a good question. And I would say to everybody, I would say to the veterans that are listening to this video later, reflect on your mentors, because I know you've had many, and I would say continue your own mentoring. But to the young leaders, that we're really talking to, find your mentor, reflect upon your mentor, thank your mentor, and I'll talk about that. You know, mentors are many different people. I mean, obviously the big mentor, I guess, was probably Cliff Lachelet, who was the director of pharmacy at Ohio State, and, you know, propelled me, I guess, in the whole area of my professional practice. But working my way through college in a cafeteria, I had a dietitian, Harriet Dyer, bless her, that was my boss, and I ended up somehow working my way up to be the head waiter, you know, trying to control 50 students to get eggs out in the morning and deal with meals and punch tickets and, you know, and all of that stuff. So, quote, I was the boss, even though I was like a sophomore in college, and Harriet Dyer was the manager. She taught me more about open door management, more about listening, reflecting, more about communications. And that was a fundamental. So I guess I'm saying mentors can be many different people. They can be a high school coach. They can be certainly your preceptor in pharmacy. But they're very special people. And I guess if you'd say, well, what's different about them? Well, one, they're non-judgmental. I mean, you have to have kind of a bond. I mean, can you say, can anybody be a mentor to any mentee? Yeah, maybe not. You got to have a little chemistry there. But I think they're non-judgmental. They're trying to help, and it really does produce an open communication and listening, and that is so very, very valuable. And so you go through, you know, you have mentors really, you know, all your life. So I've learned a lot from many, many, many people, and now you get to that kind of stage where it's payback time. And I think that is so very important. So that's why I really do enjoy teaching. I've had kind of a dual career here, because I can talk to the youth, and I still to this day mentor a lot of people and my residents that you know, have come and gone and doing great things all over the country. I'm getting calls frequently. What about this? What about that? Because there's no judgment, and I think that is a big part of leadership, is finding somebody you're comfortable with, or several people you're comfortable with, and networking and using the mentor system.
How can an individual maximize that relationship with a mentor?
Well, seek them out first of all. Be honest with them. Very famous person I know called Sara White. I heard her speak at a meeting before students about 4 or 5 years ago, and about 2 or 3 years ago maybe, and she made the comment, Sara, you know, you did a great job on this, and said to these students, I challenge every one of you to have a mentor. Well, they may have had one, but they may not have realized that they had one. So I had one of those students come up to me and says, I'd like you to be my mentor, because Sara says I've got to have a mentor. So I've been this gentleman's mentor now for 3 years, and he's in the residency program, master's program, but you know, he was just an undergraduate at that particular time. Lots of email, lots of phone calls. We're starting to raise a family. I mean, you really do get, you know, you really get into that. So, and again, don't maybe, I'm going to say this, but put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't have other people that you really confide in and that you really help. Maybe a tangential thing is, I mean, mentors are one thing, friends and networking could be another. What you really find as you grow through your career are your colleagues. It's back to organizational work, and you can say, why do I? It's networking, networking, and networking. I mean, people are having the same issues that you are, whether they're professional or business or operational or whatever. And you may not call them mentors, but colleagues are so helpful to clearing your own head, giving you your own direction, or the comfort in, like, I thought I was the only one that had this problem, and I find out that, yeah, this is maybe something that other people are dealing with as well.
As I visit with young people around the country, they're often intimidated to come up and introduce themselves to you or I at meetings. Would you welcome that introduction?
Oh, always. I always do. I mean, it's kind of humbling. I mean, you know, and I'm open door policy. I would do that. I think one of the things that has kind of started actually in pharmacy residencies, I think, is that some residency programs are really assigning as a, well, what's a residency club, as a project for the resident to go through, like the Whitney book now on the web. And pick somebody that they would relate to and call them and interview them. Now, I'm sure that's intimidating, you know, as you said, for them to call up somebody they don't even know and said, can I set up an appointment to talk with you about your career and talk with you about, you know, issues and all of that. But that's happened, and I think that's a fantastic program, the residency programs that are really doing that. Just to call up and, you know, pick their brain and get started. Because what I always do anyway, is say, okay, you finished your project, I want to meet you face to face at the mid-year. And so there, we almost have a special appointment to get done. And I have met some wonderful, you know, young people, and even carried on some, you know, later conversations, you know, with them because of that. So I would say that don't be intimidated, because I think a mark of a leader is somebody that will share. And to me, a mark of a leader is somebody that wants others to succeed as well. And that's part of the payback for the career that you've had.